Council, come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Here.
Vanderhorst.
Here.
Butler.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Van Strylen.
Here.
And is Carl still on the line yet? We will be joining later, so I'll let you know when he does.
Okay. All right, so before we get started tonight, I have some more acknowledgements to make. Our spring sports here at Pella have been quite productive, so if you remember last time I talked about all I think we had 10 state championships in track and field. Well, since then, we had an individual state champion in tennis. Jack Briggs won the state championship in tennis. The Pella girls tennis team also won state championship, so we added 2 more. And then also we had a national championship at Central College. Megan Johnson won the steeplechase, and she was followed closely in second place by Carolyn Martin, who's from Pella, but on Central's team. So spring sports have been quite productive for our little town. So I want to congratulate all those and recognize all those guys. Those sports take a lot of work, and so people put in a lot of work, and it's good to see them rewarded with some great honors. So congratulations to all of those. All right, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of our tentative agenda?
So moved.
Vanderhorst, DeYoung, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. At this time, we have an opportunity for public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda items, step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Ms. Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6701, entitled Resolution Approving, Ordering the Preparation of Plans and Specifications, Form of Contract, Notice of Hearing, and Notice of Letting, Setting Date for Public Hearing, Authorizing the Taking of Bids, and Authorizing Bid Opening for the West 9th Street Improvement Project. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. For those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber, I'd like to direct your attention to the big board for a presentation on this item. Mayor DeWard stated what we're talking about this evening with this resolution is the West 9th Street improvements. And the West 9th Street improvements, just to orientate everyone, is Washington Street's right here to the south. Where map extend further to the east, the Walmart Supercenter would be right over here. The West 9th Street improvements would be this green highlighted area. And if you were to drive out there today, what you'd see is an asphalt gravel road mixture. What we're going to be doing is upgrading this road to an urban cross section, so this would be a regular standard city street on this. And then, as was approved earlier by the City Council, we have a new commercial building that will be taking place or being constructed this year on this site as well. This would be in the tenants of the commercial building. We're planned our Starbucks and also a T-Mobile office as well. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Now, just for the construction portion of this project, the estimated cost are right around $385,000. According to the city's development agreement that we have, the developer will be paying 50% of the outside improvements. And again, this is the road that we're talking about that we're going to be upgrading. Now, if council were to approve this resolution, what you're really doing is giving staff authorization to seek bids for the project. We would hold a bid letting on this project on June 25th, and the public hearing for the project would actually be on July 2nd. Now, as far as the final completion, it's measured in working days, and we're planning 35 working days for the project, which is always conditional upon the weather this summer as well. So before I conclude the staff presentation, Denny, do you have anything to add on this project?
I think you covered it.
Okay, so that concludes the staff presentation.
All right, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
Hopkins, DeYoung, any discussion?
How far down the road is the boundary? It's the city line, right?
the city property line?
Yeah.
The city?
Yeah, the city, Councilmember Butler, the city limits extend right up to here, so.
So it's just beyond the current paved part?
Yeah, that's the 100% the city limits. Once you get past this section, it's split it's split, it's not exactly even, but it's split between the city of Pella and rural Marion County past that section.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll vote on the motion for approval. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6702, entitled Resolution Approving Community Services Fees. Mike?
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board on this item. As Mayor DeWart stated, what we're discussing this evening is community services fee adjustments. It's important to note that we did discuss these same fee adjustments that's being considered this evening during policy and planning on May 21st. Now, as far as the overall increases, they're meant to help offset operational cost increases the city has experienced over the last 2 years at the Aquatic Center, and they're estimated, once fully adopted, for it on an annual basis to generate $25,000 in additional revenue for the city. It's also important to note the Community Services Board has also reviewed and it's recommending approval of the fee adjustments as well. And before we conclude the staff presentation, Jeanette, do you have anything to add on this item?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I get a motion for approval.
So moved.
DeYoung, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6703, entitled Resolution Approving a Professional Services Agreement with Snyder and Associates for the engineering services associated with the Kiwanis Park Phase 3 Improvements Project. Mike?
Yes, as Mayor DeWart stated, what this resolution would do is approve an agreement or an engineering services agreement with Snyder and Associates for the Kiwanis Phase 3 improvements. As council is aware, on May 7th, we approved an agreement for the Wonderspiel playground. This is the Phase 3 for additional play equipment that is listed up here on the board. Now, overall, the project is estimated to cost right at $300,000. The city's financial contribution to the project is $150,000. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as the agreement we're considering this evening, the total is $15,500. We have some additional details on the project. And before we conclude the staff presentation, Jeanette, is there anything to add on this item?
There is not.
Alrighty, that concludes the staff presentation. Mr. Mayor, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Reindeerhorst, Van Strylen. Any discussion?
Just an observation, last Saturday, I was stopped by a neighbor abutting the park, and he loves that park, just loves it, and even has an idea for Phase 3. And I know, and I said, well, I asked him to reach out to you, Mark, but just a shout out to the joy that you're bringing to so many people, including the neighbors. Yes.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll vote on the motion for approval. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6704, entitled Resolution Determining the Necessity and Setting Dates for Consultation and a Public Hearing on a Proposed EPCON Residential Urban Renewal Plan for a Proposed Urban Renewal Area in the City of Pella, State of Iowa. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and as far as this resolution tonight, what we're really doing is authorizing staff to initiate the legislative process to adopt an urban renewal plan, which would be the EPCON Residential Urban Renewal Plan. It is important to note that we did discuss this proposed housing development at our May 21st meeting with that. Now, as far as the urban renewal details on the plan, I'm going to ask our Planning and Zoning Director, Jerry Vidas, to give us some additional details on the urban renewal plan. So, Jerry, feel free to update council on this item.
Council. The urban renewal plan for the EPCON, which is the development over by where Prairie Ridge is, splits it into 2 phases. Phase 1 is approximately $2 million worth of infrastructure for streets and sewers, approximately 35 lots. Phase 2 is the remainder, another $3 million in infrastructure for 48 lots, giving us a total of 83 lots in development. This sets the consultation dates at June 27th and the public hearing back here in this room on June 16th. Again, this is our way to incentivize private development and needed residential to the city of Pella.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Hopkins, DeYoung, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6705, entitled Resolution Approving Engagement Agreement with the Allers and Cooney PC to act as bond and disclosure counsel for the City of Pella in connection with general obligation capital loan notes. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as Mayor DeWart stated, this resolution we're entertaining this evening is for an engagement letter with the Allers and Cooney Law Firm that also serves as the city's bond counsel. And it's for the proposed upcoming water bond issue. And with this, to talk about the agreement, share some additional details, I'd like to go ahead and ask Brian Weave to update the City Council on this item.
Thank you, Mike. Mayor, Council, the agreement before you, as Mike said, is for disclosure and bond counsel. This would be needed if the full agreement was $23,500 if both components are needed, and that would be as if we end up having to go to a public bid of the bonds. Our intention is to do these as private placement bonds, working with D.A. Davidson. And then if that happens, then we would just need the bond counsel. What their role is to review, make sure that all the bonds are following the legal and the IRS regulations for the tax exempt status of them. If we do go to public bid, then the disclosure council comes in. That's when they prepare about a 200-page document as an official statement that tells the investors history of the city, what the bonds are, et cetera, and that. So that's why that fee gets higher. So if we do the public placement, then we're looking at a fee of about $9,500. That will vary a little bit just depending on the amount of work they do and the time that we decide to go with the public placement, private placement, or the public bid. So, any questions?
Okay, anything else, Mike?
Sir.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
DeYoung, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Hopkins, Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
and Carlstone, Petroni.
yes,
Motion passed. Okay, moving on, resolution number 6706, entitled Resolution Fixing Date for a Meeting on Authorization of a Loan Agreement and the Issuance of Not to Exceed $800,000 in General Obligation Capital Loan Notes of the City of Pella, State of Iowa for essential corporate purposes and providing for public publication of notice thereof. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, considering this item, this resolution, what you're really doing is establishing June 18th as the public hearing date for proposed bond issue of general obligation notes of the amount of not to exceed $800,000 to support improvements that took place, that will take place rather, at our water utility. Now, to share some additional details on the proposed bond issue, and once again, I'd like to call on Brian Weave to explain this item to council.
Yes, thank you again, Mike. Mayor, Council, the bond issue is up for a not to exceed amount of $800,000. We're looking at projects that we will construct or pursue in fiscal year 25 and 26. Reason for it is kind of help with cash flow. This past year, fiscal year 24, last summer, and that we had some unexpected and larger expenses to one of the wells, which kind of drained the cash reserves there. And so even though we're issuing it as a general obligation, the fees will come from water revenue. So if we issue it as a general obligation, due to usually lower interest rates. It could be used as property tax if for some reason the council decided to, but the main repayment source will be water rates. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Brian. So, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Or Young, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Manny, please call the roll.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
yes,
Motion passed. Can I get a motion for approval to pay the abstract of bills number 2152?
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Support.
Brandon Horst and Stryland. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
yes,
I heard it.
Yes,
I was
okay.
a quiet one.
Hopkins.
Yes.
yes.
Motion passed. Sound like he's out of breath. Any council member have any other business that you want to have addressed this evening? Any member of the public have any other business that you'd like council to hear about tonight? If so, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Dwight Young, 2509 Schulte Straat. You raised the fees at the swimming pool, but I wondered how much it was for an individual to go swimming. What were the individual increases?
I would defer to Jeanette. Are you talking about a pass or just a daily rate? We had talked about them at our last meeting, so they're on the board there. Are you talking about just one individual,
I'm just
annual
talking
pass?
about what, yeah, what are the
What, an
individual-
annual pass?
Well.
Or a daily pass or what?
What's a daily pass?
Oh, okay.
There's no change to that rate, it stayed the same, it's six.
It's what?
$6 a day?
Yep, and 9.
And that will stay the same?
Correct, there's no change to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. What's the status of the community building, the former high school, as far as refurbishment and upgrading?
Well, I don't have any update right now.
So is it
Still in
planned-
the discussion phase.
It's what?
Still in the discussion phase.
Under discussion. Is it tied in with the rec center or is it standing separate?
Yeah, we're not talking about it tonight.
I see. When do you think we might be
Soon,
talking about it?
soon we'll be talking about it.
All right, thank you very much.
Anyone else?
John Banstra, rural Mahaska County. It's been about 2 years since the Iowa Supreme Court has ruled that portions of the 28E agreement for the South Central Regional Airport are in violation of Iowa code and have been thrown out. In February, at a South Central Regional Airport meeting, City Manager Nardini stated that there would be a new 28E agreement approved within 60 days. That hasn't happened, but in his defense, the attorney for the South Central Regional Airport, Amy Beatty, also stated at an Iowa Public Information Board meeting that there would be a new 28E agreement within 60 days. That was in February. So my question to the council is there a new 28E agreement that is not being discussed? Or is there a 28E agreement and the mayor and the council refusing to review it? And, it's major businesses oppose this. Many residents oppose it. Many residents also say that they thought this airport was a dead issue. So if you're not supporting the residents and the major businesses, who are you supporting? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sarah Treff, 2333 Dakota Drive. And you know, I'm a soccer person, so that's what I'm here to talk about. I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to Jeanette and Kevin for being willing to let us pivot pretty quickly out to the sports park. And it has worked out for us this spring with the fields and just the better playing surface. I do anticipate a little bit of conflict going into the fall as far as the availability of fields and just what we can do to work with all of the scheduling that's going to happen out there to make sure that, you know, we have our football, we have the rec soccer, but then we can also have the soccer club out there. So I just wanted to know what the plan was as far as like soccer facility funding and when that might be back on the table for discussion and moving forward since fiscal year is coming quite quickly.
Well, we had a discussion about it at our budget meeting. That's the only discussion we've had so far.
Okay. Well, I just had some dates like January, you know, hey, Mayor, I read your mayor's message. Soccer was on there as a priority. Strategic planning I came to, and, you know, 5 of the 7 of you, you know, said it was a major concern and in your top 3 priorities to get figured out. So, yeah, I would just like some feedback or some communication as to when it will be on, because, you know, we're hoping that the money and the planning and the dirt moving could start, you know, this after the fiscal year starts here in July. So.
Sarah, I think it still is a concern and a priority to the council, most of the council. And I do appreciate you bringing it back to the light. And my understanding is I think we'll be discussing it at a future meeting. So I would just suggest that you continue to check the agendas and see when it's on there, because I know that just myself personally, when we are discussing an issue and there are people involved with the soccer group in the audience, then I can ask questions and reference you. So my suggestion would be just to watch the agenda and know that it is a priority still.
Sure.
Yes.
And thank you, Lynn, for
Sure.
responding and doing that. Just from my standpoint, we understand that the budget dollars have been approved to move forward. And so that's where I'm just, you know, wondering why we're not discussing it at one of the meetings coming up here soon, so that we can decide where those dollars go to. And that then Jeanette and her crew have some direction as to where to go. Because I think it will be kind of a tight thing, and we'll need some more space here sooner than later.
Yes.
So.
And the clubs and the people involved with soccer deserve a safe place to play. Heavy on the word safe.
Yes, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do have a plug too for the rec center, just because I feel like maybe the soccer fields are getting tied to the rec center a little bit in the movement of those. So, you know, I've been playing since they were out at the complex. I have the original flyer that people used to send out to get money and try to, you know, have donations and things like that from '97. So my dad keeps these kinds of things, and then I get to have them as reference years later. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to put in a plug for the rec center, because if that is tied to the soccer fields and the expansion out there, I am wanting to see that go. And I just thought it was interesting that even in this flyer, you know, 27 years ago, they mentioned an indoor facility. So they did have visions of that even that many years ago. And I think that it would be nice to see it to come to fruition. And also then with our fields being out there, the road going through, you know, just all of those things that would help expand soccer, but also the other things that the industries are obviously looking for. So, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? discussions. We'll start with the off-street public improvements for Quick Start. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and as Mayor DeWart stated in the session, what the intention of that session is to discuss a potential cost allocation for proposed off-site public improvements for the new Quick Start development. Now, to orientate everyone, we have here is Highway 163 is located right here, Washington Street's over here. And this would be the northbound exit ramp to go on Highway 163. The new Quick Start development is located right down here. Now, as a part of the city's site planning process, staff hired Snyder and Associates to conduct a traffic study or a traffic analysis for this development. The analysis was included in the council packet. But the summary of the off-site improvements on Washington Street included construction of new traffic signals at the intersection of Washington Street and the northbound Highway 163 ramps right here, as well as dedicated left-hand turning lanes for both east and westbound traffic on right here. So this would be this yellow highlighted area. Now, the estimated cost for these items for the off-site improvements is $965,000 on that. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. And considering the cost allocation and through negotiations with the developer, what we've tried from the staff standpoint is to be consistent with other developments that have had required off-site improvements on matters and the cost allocations. And we also took a careful review of the traffic analysis. Now, in the traffic study, it mentioned that there's 4 criteria for meeting traffic warrants to construct traffic signals, and those are the criteria that the federal government uses in reporting federal funding for traffic signals on it. Currently, the traffic on Washington Street meets 2 of those warrants right now with it. So after considering what's been done in the past, in fact, we just approved a construction contract this evening, or we sought bids for construction contract this evening for the new Starbucks development that we have. Considering what's been done in the past, and also considering that the traffic on the current levels of traffic warrant, met some conditions for warrants for traffic signals on Washington Street, what's being proposed is to split the cost with the developer for the off-site improvements in the amount of $482,500 on it. So the developer's share would be capped at that. Up to that point, it would be 50% of cost. The city would be responsible if there's any overages, and this is similar to what we did with the Starbucks developer as well. Now, as far as the city's allocation on this and our funding sources, would actually come through two places. Initially, on the construction of the traffic signal, we're proposing an interfund loan from the city's electric utility over to what's called the West Side Urban Renewal District that's currently being considered by the city council on that. And that amount would be in the amount of $482,000, and we would take the city's investment fund rate that we currently have with the electric utility, and that would be the interest rate. Brian, just for reference, what is our current interest rate?
5.25%.
Okay. So it'd be at 5.25% would be the interest rate that we would have from the electric utility. The way TIF works on this is we capture valuations within the West Side Urban Renewal District, and those would be used to pay back the electric utility on that as well. And so that would be paid back on staff's estimation somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 years that we would be able to pay back the electric utilities. So from a financing standpoint, initially it would be paid from the electric utility with a loan to the West Side Urban Renewal Plan. And then the Urban Renewal Plan would capture valuations within the Urban Renewal Plan or incremental valuations, including the new Quick Start development on that. We'd use those property taxes to pay back the electric utility on that. So what we're here this evening, Mr. Mayor, is to receive direction from the council as far as the proposed off-site cost allocation or the cost allocations for the required off-site improvements to serve the development on this. And once we get council's direction on the matter, depending on how things go in the direction we receive, but if council is supportive of this proposal, then we anticipate that we should have within the very near future a development agreement with Quick Start, Quick Trip in this case, for the off-site improvements. So that concludes the staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
I just have a question. You mentioned the traffic study that we met 2 of the 3 requirements. Which one did we meet?
That was 2 of the 4. I might have misspoken. Denny, could you answer
Yeah,
that question?
and it's even more difficult to explain that. We met some of the warrants, but with their projected traffic, we would meet all the warrants needed to justify traffic signals. You know, unfortunately, on the federal funding side, you can't use projected ADT, we would have to have the existing traffic to use federal dollars. So that's where we're gonna have to look at local funds like Mike has done in this proposal.
And there's no way, once you meet those requirements, to get a reimbursement for them?
No, not with STP money.
Okay.
And the other thing, you gotta remember, the traffic counts they took in place was a snapshot, the couple of days they spent there. And if any of you have been there between early in the morning or between 5 and 6 in the evening, it's no doubt we meet some of the warrants. It's horrible to get trapped in this stretch of road.
So there wasn't enough traffic flow, or car count, or whatever is what the right did qualify.
Those peaks come close and actually trip it, but not all of them. So, but no doubt their type of business will put us over the top.
Maybe you should invite them to come back, like say during tool time.
We do balance that with school activities once in a while, another issue.
Okay, thoughts, questions?
There's no way they can reject us putting in a traffic signal, right?
DOT,
Yeah.
they've already blessed the study actually, and they've acknowledged Washington corridor is ours.
Okay.
So our corridor, affects their off ramps, and when they get concerned is when we start backing traffic clear up onto the 4-lane, which we have another easterly intersection that once in a while comes close to that. So we'll be talking about Clark Street one of these days. That's another frustrating.
Well, yeah, I've been there teaching driver ed some years ago when Pella gets up with inexperienced drivers.
Okay, any objections to, that seems like a real deal for us. It's gonna be a great addition to the community, that's for sure.
All of Washington Street will be 3-lane eventually.
That's been discussed for years.
I just want to get the Glazers in town, because those donuts are amazing.
All right. I'm reading that the sentiment is to get the development agreement together, so.
Right, thank you.
All right, our next item is to discuss Southside beautification project update, Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as Mayor DeWard stated, what we're talking about this evening is what the city is commonly referred to, or traditionally referred to, is the Southside beautification project. It is important to note that the park was recently named in honor of Mr. Charles Farber on that as well, but we refer to it at the city as the Southside beautification project, just for common reference on the matter. Now, as far as the park itself, it's located on the old power plant site, which is approximately 3 acres, and right in front of the Pella Corporation's corporate headquarters, and it abuts Oskaloosa Street. Now, what I'd like to ask is, Jeanette Vaughn, if you could please walk us through the layout of the park, the amenities that's being proposed in the master plan. Jeanette?
Thank you. So, not much has changed since the 2019 as far as the concept of the inclusions. We did add some native planting areas to kind of act as a screen between the park and the Pella Corp offices there, just for an extra border. We just did some rearrangements of the pathways to have a larger garden area and then a pavilion, and then we're still showing a parking lot, restrooms, and then a place for food trucks.
That dark area in front, is that a walkway or a passageway?
No,
Right below the green?
I think that's just a shadow from the Pella Corp building, so.
Okay.
That's the railroad right away, isn't it?
Yes.
Modifying that transformer lines, is that aesthetic or is that something that electric prefers to have take place?
I'll make sure I touch on that one here just in just a bit, Councilmember DeYoung, so. Okay. All righty, I'll go ahead and jump on the finance side of things. The master plan that Jeanette went through and covered totaled $1,850,000. What is actually budgeted in the city's FY25 budget, so this would be on the fiscal year starting on July 1st of this year, as well as our associated capital improvement plan is a project of $1.5 million. Now, some of the items have been phased in on this project on it, and namely with the number with the 1.5 million. Probably the main amenity is that was planned was new restrooms on the site. We don't have those included within the project budget. Now, what we're here to talk about this evening and receive direction from the council is two things. We want to talk about the budget allocation that we have this evening, and then two, we want to talk about the city funding sources that we have up here. That's what we're looking for direction on tonight. Council is supportive of the budget and the funding sources. Then the next stage for us would be burying the power lines with the electric utility on it, and also commencing formal engineering designs on the park project as well. So what we have here, let's go through the funding sources first and foremost. So let me make sure I talk about the electric utility contribution. If you looked on the site currently, there's 69,000 volt transmission lines that run across this site. One of the thoughts that we've had in discussions with the committee and has been talked about city staff is if you look at the investment of $1.5 million on this project, and I'm going to ask Mandy to go back to the first slide as well, and you look at the overall intent of this project. When this project was initially proposed, we actually completed an Oskaloosa Street corridor redevelopment study at council. And one of the thoughts was that with the redevelopment is the inclusion of, at that time, the Southside Beautification Project on the site could spur additional development within the area. Not only on Oskaloosa Street, but we've also talked on redevelopment plans for north of Oskaloosa Street, the Heber Street area as well. So we had redevelopment plans that we're talking about with hopes of redeveloping on the Oskaloosa corridor. What we've talked about as a group is if you're trying to get people to come down to the park, you'll notice that there's areas, I believe, Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong, for food trucks. When you start talking about pavilions and group spaces like this, and then also some very nice flower beds that we have here as well. So when you're talking about inviting pedestrians down, one of the things that we talked about was looking at those transmission lines on it. So I would say, Councilmember Diog, that the primary purpose of this site is mainly aesthetics and also trying to align ourselves with the original intention of the project was what was to spur redevelopment on the Oskaloosa Street corridor. And the thoughts would be is if we spend a budget, Mandy, if you can go back to the next slide, please, of $1.5 million, even if that was $1.2 million, and we're inviting people to a public space, but you have 69,000 volt electric lines directly above you, that kind of is counterproductive to the intent of the project. And so that's why what we're proposing is to bury those lines on there, and that would actually connect, those lines would still be connected to the North Plant sub as well as the Clark Street sub on that. That's the primary intention on this. Now, as far as the timeline, if we proceed on the project, burying those electric transmission lines is going to take about a year on it. So what we would do is we would start on the burying of the lines, taking down the existing transmission lines. It's going to take us about a year to do that. At the same time, we would finish up the engineering and design on the project as well. So we've covered the $350,000 to bury the transmission lines that we have. The other items that we have that were already approved through, discussed through the budget, is we have a local option sales and services tax allocation of right around $96,000 on that as well. For that particular project, council will need to approve a resolution authorizing local option sales and services tax funds for the project. The project also has $200,000 in donations that have been expressed to staff on this. Earlier we had a number of $300,000. We can confirm this evening that that number is $200,000 for the funding sources that we have. And the biggest one I wanted to make sure council's aware of is we talked about the size and scale of this project. And if you recall, we said the master plan is $1.8 million, but the budget is actually $1.5 million. And the reason why on that is when you look at the city's last source of this, what we're proposing is a general obligation corporate purpose bond in the amount of $855,000. Now, the way Iowa law works is that amount has been increased here recently by the state, but when you get right around $900,000, if you start issuing bonds for parks, general obligation bonds, and just to refresh everyone's memory, and also those in attendance in the audience, when we talk about general obligation bonds, what that means is that the city has the ability to levy a debt service levy to support to pay back the bondholders on it. You start getting above $900,000 on those types of bonds, they generally require a referendum or approval by the citizens of Pella. Now, up to this amount of $900,000, they are subject to a reverse referendum, which means petitions can be filed on the bond issue. But when you talk about overall within council's discretion, it appears that $900,000 is about the upper limit as far as the project for a general obligation bond issue for the project. So what we did, and with the funding sources that we have here in the project budget, is $1.5 million, and it consisted of these projects here. Now, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong with this bond issue, and we estimated based off current valuations, and when the bond would actually be issued, this could be somewhere in either an FY26 or FY27. Based on today's valuations, it would increase the city's debt service levy by about 12 cents. It's likely by the time we actually get done or actually issue the bond that amount could be lower once you factor in growth in the taxable base of the city of Pella on that. So Mandy, I'm not sure if we had anything else. A few other items, I believe I mentioned most of these items, but the key thing is once again, when we looked at the intent of this project, it was to spur redevelopment plans on Oskaloosa Street was the original intention of this project. Subsequently to that, when the project was first formed, the City Council has also approved the naming of the park in the honor of Mr. Charles S. Farber due to his significant contributions to the community. And to date, we've secured roughly $200,000 or been notified of $200,000 contribution from private sources to the project as well. Covered the tax increase or proposed potential tax increase, I think is the best way to describe this as well. The final thing, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page, is a park like this is going to be a tremendous tourist attraction and attraction for the community, amenity for the community. But it's very likely, once it becomes operational in the year 26, 27, that we will have to increase our operational budget to be able to maintain it as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, what we're really looking for is direction on the overall project budget, $1.5 million, and then 2, we're looking for feedback on the proposed funding sources for this project.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Questions, comments?
This project budget has grown considerably, and this project has been on the back burner a while, as well as the soccer issues. Are those two competing for dollars in Jeanette's budget?
No, in fact, they're both similarly financed. The key issue with the soccer complex is we anticipate, again, and I'm going to preface this comment rather than give days, we have a lot of projects to consider. They're all important and we're getting to them as fast as we can, but it'll be sometime this summer in the soccer complex. I may be a little bit off on the soccer complex, but I believe the funding, if we stayed at the existing soccer complex, was about $1.3 million. It was right around $800,000 for improvements to what I call turf and athletics, irrigation system, another $400,000 to $500,000 to pave the soccer complex. And this is prior to getting bond council's approval, but we're assuming that those would be 2 separate projects. If bond council assumes they're one project, it's likely that the parking lot will stay gravel on there. What we're going to be talking about this summer is on plans is it's $1.3 million to stay at the current complex versus what would be the cost if we built, which we believe is roughly $2.8 million if we built a new fields at the current Pella Sports Park on it as well. And that's what the discussion is going to be this summer. So either way, they're both proposed bond issues, all 3 projects, and they're not competing. More of an issue is just the financial management and also the conversation of the city's tax rate as well.
Well, I feel like after 6 years of working on this project, we really have to do something. One need only drive past, and you can see that we're losing the soil onto the road. We've done 3 years of environmental studies, and I believe that after 3 redesigns of the park, the current committee has developed a park unlike any other park we have in the community. It is sleek, it's contemporary. Lost myself. It's, am I on still, Monty? Here I am. It's contemporary. It's definitely a 12-month of the year design. And I believe that one of the focus that the committee had was to keep the maintenance as low as possible. And then I also want to couple that in there that Pella has been an amazing community partner with the city. And when you look at this, when you're bringing prospective employees in, what we're showing them, I call it the La Brea tar pit, jokingly, when I talk to people. It's just not a good look. It's not a good welcome. So, you know, I'm a very conservative person, but I think the sand has run out of our hourglass on this project. And in conversations with Mr. J. Dix too, you know, I think this is a project that Pella is looking forward to.
I had somebody here from Wisconsin, for tulip time, who, I would say doesn't look at aesthetics too much, but he's making all these positive, comments about Pella. And then he goes by this place and said, what's going on here? And this is really, an entryway into downtown Pella. And it's sat there year after year after year since the power plant came down. But it's time to do something with that, 3 acres.
Yeah, I would agree. The only comment I would make is I think it's a great project and we need to do it. I think it would be foolish though to not, if we're gonna have food trucks, if we're gonna have gazebo or whatever there is, entertainment and people, we can't do this without putting bathrooms out there.
Oh.
We can't draw people down to spend the night eating and drinking and whatever else they're gonna do without a place of restrooms. And so whether the budget's 1.5 and I think the restrooms are another $200,000, whether we make it a contingency bid or something like that, that I think or we have a restroom drive, raise the extra money to pay. I just think it'd be foolish to do this to this without adding restrooms.
Excellent comment.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like the Wonder Skiing, you know, we put the restrooms out there, they did, and they're very nice, and if you just can't have an amenity like this without affecting
Not
the
if you're,
service.
not if you're anticipating people are just be there and enjoy it, be around.
I just thought that Mike's comment about 69,000 volts overhead was a little ominous.
It's spooky, isn't it?
You don't like sparks?
The vibe I'm getting from is, let's move forward.
All right, okay, thank you.
Does anybody?
That's the vibe that I got.
Okay.
It's gonna have to be in stages.
Yeah, and it take a little time to get all that done. Let's get moving on. All right, we'll move on to the Hazel Street sidewalk update, Mike.
Okay, the intention of this session is just to update council on the installation of sidewalks on Hazel Street. And council may recall when we approved the Timberview residential development that's just north of this location here, and with that at the time, we received concerns from citizens on this as far as increased traffic on Hazel Street, as well as children on Hazel Street. Currently that street lacks sidewalks or public sidewalks on the area. So as part of the development, what council approved was the installation of sidewalks on Hazel Street for phase 1 of the project of the Timberview development. As future phases of Timberview took place and really started budding up on Country Club Drive, council also stated at that time we'd look at sidewalks on Country Club Drive as well. Now, what we're here to talk about this evening, as far as the Timberview development, there are currently some plans. We're working with the state and federal agencies on the environmental review for the project. They anticipate hopefully being able to start the public infrastructure on the project later this fall, and the tentative completion date would be next spring on the project. What we're here to talk about this evening is just to provide an update on the sidewalks on it and staff's analysis to date, and it's somewhat of a moving target. But the good news is since the Timberview development has been delayed, we feel we have time on this item to actually look at it and get it right. And so as far as the construction and installation of sidewalks, it's likely to be sometime in calendar year 2025. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Public Works Director Denny Byer to talk about sidewalks on Hazel Street.
If you drive it, it's tough. Either side's tough. If I had to pick one today, it's gotta be on the west side. There's switch gear, a couple transformers, and a couple of yards that are extremely high that would take retaining walls. And over the years, we've gotten smarter. We just don't build public retaining walls with city funds. They're, you know, in Iowa, they don't stand. Sooner or later, they're gonna fall down. So if I were to pick today, it'd be on the west side of Hazel. And there was late breaking news today. We got an email. They plan on starting grading next week. And I don't know if we can forward that to you, Mike, but that came to Barry this afternoon.
We're talking sidewalk grading, right? Not the.
No, timber view grading.
Timber view,
The
really?
plat. Yeah, the sidewalk would have to be preliminary surveyed by somebody like Garden and designed and staked and constructed. And I don't even wanna redo the cost estimate yet, cause concrete prices are just astronomical. Sidewalk program was what, $12 a square foot? And, you know, so all of a sudden, the prices we've been talking, they keep going up.
Is there any way we can get the developer to pay for these sidewalks, since they're making a phenomenal amount of money on this development?
Good luck with that. You can always try. But I actually think the money's going the other way, right?
The development agreement has already been approved on this project.
So no chance.
So I guess my question is, from a timing standpoint, if they're gonna start grading this next week, I know originally they thought they might have lots for sale this calendar year. Do you know anything about the schedule now?
No, but being it's only June and next week, they can have lots for sale this fall. I'd say they could break, you know, possibly have a couple of basements, but, you know, with a good average rainfall for the year.
But keep in mind, just because the developer is free to start grading at any time on the site and do that, but in order for the city to accept the improvements, all environmental clearances, reviews, satisfaction at the EPA, Iowa DNR need to be taken care of. So.
And I need to add, they did say subject to a permit, but they felt it was now imminent, it was coming.
Yeah, they've been at it for some time on the matter, so that's the key issue.
Well, I was just asking the question because the sidewalk in Hazel probably won't be needed until 2025. So that's, I mean, we already discussed it and approved the development agreement, so I guess it's just, we were planning on doing it this year. We don't need to now.
Well, I guess my concern is with equipment going by there, with the daycare on that street, you know, be good to get that sidewalk in as soon as possible.
You go and start tomorrow? Then
Sure, you have a forms meeting tomorrow. I mean, it's not a straight stretch, even on the west side. There's gonna be some, you know, cause if we were to make it perfect, we'd be clear out by people's front stoops, and we're not gonna, you know, design a sidewalk like this when it's retrofit. You kinda have to go with the flow a little bit and give a little bit on the spec of the 1.5 inch per foot from sidewalk to back of curb. That's where the give is. And you know, and if there's an oak tree that's dead smack, can we allow a slight squiggle? We'll have to look at that in the design. You know, and actually too, we always try to get at least 10 feet of green space between the curb and that front walk. So if you look at that and then 4 foot of sidewalk, there's several trees along there, and I have not gotten out of the truck and measured any of them. So, you know, there's gonna be a few of those in the way there too, both sides.
is anyone with the development online on the phone? See if that any input.
One of the people that live up there thought the sidewalk was gonna be in before any work was done on the project. And now we're getting behind that schedule.
Yeah, I don't recall when, we talked about doing it in 2024, when they were planning on, I think even starting last fall, when they ran into some floodplain issue or something environmental, that delayed the project, so. The engineering gonna start now?
President Denny, when we have that, I think, you know, what we're here to talk about is there's some complications with the project on both sides. Both sides have pluses and minuses, or positives and negatives is probably a better way to describe it. And if we started the engineering now, you really need to pick out the side of the street, and that's what the public works staff is still trying to do.
Yeah.
So this is just an update that it's in the works.
Yeah.
We're moving forward, but we got decisions to make. Dan's team has decisions.
Yeah. And what we would say is, once staff leads its analysis and public works has a recommendation of which side of the street it's coming in an actual route, that we can actually map out for you and talk about the things that Denny stated, you know, kind of like missing oak trees and things like that. We'll come back here and get direction at that time, that's when we'll start the project.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right, any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to planning and zoning fees.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have our planning and zoning director update council on this item.
Thank you, Mike. Honorable Mayor, members of council. This is discussion of proposed fee changes for planning and zoning. One thing I would like to bring to your attention is that the last time the city looked at this was 2010, so a long time ago. What we did is we did an analysis of the regional city municipalities from Des Moines all the way down around, and came to the conclusion that Pella was in the lower echelon of what we charge for fees. With this, we're bumping ourselves up to a little bit above medium. It won't generate a lot of additional revenue, about $5,000 a year, but you know, it is something with costs going up that we need to recoup. The best thing I want to say, or the most important thing I want to say, is that we are currently going forward with our comprehensive plan, new zoning code, and new subdivision code. Now, when we review all those rules and ordinances and laws in there, there may be additional policies or programs or parameters or permitting we might have to do. So we might create new additional fees down the road, as is what you see here. Also, the building fees. We're coming up close where we now need to adopt the latest building code that is here in Iowa. And so when we do that, it also brings fee increases. So this is not a done deal. This is just one phase of a multi-phase project. You'll probably be seeing additional fees for planning and zoning in about 16 months, and possibly the building fees here within the next 6 months. Any questions?
So these fees aren't being proposed to increase now, they're gonna be part of the whole
We're gonna
update,
start
or
the increase now,
that we are gonna,
but as, you know, in your staff report, you'll actually see that there are some services we provide, we don't charge a fee for at all. So we wanna kinda catch ourselves up and then do incremental approvals or increases along the path to keep ourselves relevant.
I would also like to point out on these fees, you know, for instance, the Board of Adjustment for a residential variance on that, $100 may cover the city's out-of-pocket mailing cost and public notice on it. So we're still, when the costs are going up, you know, as far as the services themselves, there's still other additional costs that the city bears above and beyond these fees.
okay, comments, questions? All right, we'll have to officially approve them in the future. Okay, last thing on our list is council committee request, Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, staff received a request from an elected official, and what the request was, and we would ask council to feel free to chime in if we misrepresent anything or don't describe accurately the point of, or that what's being proposed, is to consider assigning council representatives to the various boards at the city. And it was our understanding, it's called council committees, but I think one of the questions would be a dual benefit. A, for council members to be in a better position to answer questions when we receive questions on projects and be more up to date on projects as well. And the idea would be assigning a various council member to each one of the boards, and they would be that expert of the board. In addition, it would probably have a dual benefit to the board, because oftentimes the boards, not oftentimes, some of the boards ask for representatives to attend their meetings or questions of elected officials. So it focus both for the benefit for the council member and the respective board as well. And that was our understanding of this particular request, but I would actually, if I misrepresented anything on this, I would have asked for council to chime in on that.
I think you did a good job, and I think that's an idea I put forward. I think that we should be allowed to kind of pick our own interest areas. Not that, you know, I mean, my interest area would be the airport and the streets probably, just something like that. And so it'd be more of a voluntary thing on the part of each council person, not a dead-on assignment. We have a lot of things to do anyway, but wherever your interest is, you can jump in and have a little better contact with the head of the department and get a better understanding of what they're wrestling with in the way of problems and budget constraints and that sort of thing.
I don't have a concern with it as long as it doesn't slow down the work progress. Before we had such a talented, wonderful staff, it was a committee system, and we were always behind, always. The communication could be great, but it can't slow down the workflow.
No.
Maybe it could even expedite some of it because questions would be answered more readily and we would have a point person in which to reach out to. And just reflecting back to the very project on the south side of beautification, you know, being able to work with Jeanette and her staff and the committee have given me a unique perspective to a lot of areas of a completion of a project that I wouldn't have had before if I had not sat on that committee. So I like it.
So my question is, like, how do you see this working, John? Like, you would be, I'm just gonna go with you in the streets. So when the Public Works got together to discuss whatever workflow, I mean, at what level are we talking about? It's like, in that case, you should go work with Public Works, like, be involved in it. But so, like, where's the line is what I'm trying to get at. Like, at what level would any of us insert onto a staffing level ourselves, and where would that
Well, I think it would be mostly, to me, it would be observational level, that you would go to the meetings, listen, anything that they wanted you to be aware of, they would tell you. You're not there to give them ideas necessarily. So you're not, you know, and I certainly don't want to hammer or slow down their work. But I think it would be helpful when we meet here for at least one of us to know, well, with the airport, this is what's going on at the airport. Or this is a concern with the airport, you know, when we talk about the airport. Or we talk about a street or a sewer or whatever. Just, to me, it'd be an education. It'd be an education for me in a lot of those areas.
So you see it as like there'd be a new, like, committee created or a new meeting created, or you'd be inserted into something?
You'd just be meeting whenever they had, you'd go to the meeting, you'd be an observer. You're not there to give direction.
I Mayor Mueller became mayor, we stopped at that practice.
Here's my concern. At the staff level, at a board level, it's certainly appropriate, for, like Lynn's, the committee that Lynn's on for that beautification project, that makes total sense. At a staff level, I definitely have experienced, when someone at a different level comes into a staff meeting, where I've experienced it myself, being a boss. What's Dave here? Now we can't talk about what we really want to talk about, the issues that are going on or whatever, because I feel like he's there metal or whatever. I definitely wouldn't want that to be the case in that staff level, but boards, absolutely, it totally makes complete sense. Because that's our lane, so to speak,
Yeah, I think that's, this obviously is up to you guys, how you want to work this out. But I adamantly will not allow us to circumvent our organizational chart to our staff. If you want to go to board meetings and sit in on the board meetings, we have a lot of committees, a lot of boards, I have no problem with that. But our role is to communicate to staff and through Mike. And if we start going around that, then we're in big trouble. And so, just so we understand, it's a committee, a board, but not staff.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
We don't want to be.
That's what I thought I heard, but I want to make sure we fully understand.
Maybe if you refined it a little bit more for us, John, and gave us bullet points of what it is and what it is not.
Okay, sure.
I think it would help me to understand it. Because I have to, making a time commitment on top of all of our other time commitments, you want to be sure that if you're going to do it, you do it right.
Right. Okay, yes, I'll work on it, and I'll talk to Mike about our meeting about it, and we'll come back, but I agree, we don't want to be involved in the staff. That's,
Well, I would even add to the argument that at community levels, the ones I've served on, there's a deferral to
What's the council?
those that sit in this position, and it does deter robust conversation from the people on those committees that do pour that time into it. It leans on micromanagement to me. I tend to be a delegative leader. These are advisory committees to us. We want those experts or those passionate people to make comments to us, and we have to be executionary board as far as making decisions. I'm hesitant to overly manage or overly extend any sort of influence we have to what we're elected for in these executive decisions. I think somebody pointed out maybe you, Dave, that if you have the time and interest in your report, there's they're open forum, open meetings, etc. So that's why I would lean on this. It have to be certainly reformed enough to make some sense there, but I hate to overly extend our influence. I knew there was a meeting tonight, by the way.
When did you get here?
Yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any kind of formal action you're asking for, just, if you're interested in going to meetings and being there for sounding board, whatever, that's up to you guys. Okay? Anything else? All right, then we are, let's see. We are gonna go into an exempt session, so I think we'll just do it here. We're done with our meeting. All we have left to do for our open session is adjourn, but we do need to go into an exempt session, so we'll right here, so. Do I have a motion to enter into exempt session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 21.9 to discuss employment conditions of employees not covered by collective bargaining agreements? I heard so. Butler, Young. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Leanna, please call the roll.
Butler? DeYoung? Vanderhorst? Yes. Carlstone? Hopkins? Van Strylen?
Yes. Motion passed. So I don't think there's any motion coming out of our open session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Support. Brandon Horst, Hopkins, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Bring this to order.
Vanderhorst? Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
We are adjourned.